started. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for Builder Partnerships Webinar Wednesday. As I was saying before, it's such a pleasure to do this with you all every other week. We really enjoy having you participate in our webinars every couple of weeks and love sharing some good information and knowledge with you all, and hope that you get a lot out of this every week. This week we have Jim Weigel, who's going to be talking about solutions to construction cycle time issues before, during, after, and beyond. So this will be a great webinar. Make sure you have pen and paper so you can take lots of notes. If you have any questions, we are taking questions throughout the webinar. We will likely reserve them until the end of the webinar today. We'll do a question and answer period. If you look down at the bottom of your screen, there are two speech bubbles down there. One says Q&A and one says chat. The Q&A one I recommend using for all of your questions that we'll get to by the end of the webinar today. The chat function you can use to communicate directly with me if you have any technical issues or have any specific questions that I can answer for you throughout the webinar. We obviously always welcome your comments and suggestions. There will be a survey that you will get at the end of the webinar, so please take a few minutes to fill that out for us. Today we have Jim Weigel, who's going to be speaking with you guys today. He is one of our senior consultants. He has a BA in economics from the University of Colorado and an MBA from the University of Denver in finance. He works specifically with our builders in operations, finance, quality, and valuation issues. So with that, I think we are all set to get started. Jim, if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Emma Jane. Thank you all for attending. I think what we're going to learn a little bit today is about how cycle time is affecting builders and a few solutions that might help with those problems. I'm noticing one of the things that we're finding with a lot of our events and practices is that people will schedule a meeting and schedule attending something, but because cycle time has so many urgencies, they can't even attend some of the meetings to learn about improving cycle time. So that's one of the consequences we're facing right now with cycle time. Probably the biggest thing that affects us as home builders is when it comes to cycle time is simply what it takes, what it means. Here, closing is the biggest event for a home builder. And when our cycle time is not working the way it should, we don't get closings, or those closings get delayed. And that screws up our cash flow quite a bit. In fact, most builders don't understand, and most superintendents don't understand, most salespeople don't understand the impact that cycle time has on the business and on their part of the business. So for example, some of the questions we had was, how can we explain this to our field personnel? How can we explain this to our buyers? What's going on with cycle time? Well, one of the key things is that when it comes to buyers is you won't get your house. If we can't get the materials, if we can't get our trades, if we can't resolve a lot of the price increases that are just surprising us regularly, or the unavailability of materials or labor, then we just can't get your house closed. So that's one thing. The other thing from a builder is, I don't think most builders understand the true cost of cycle time to their business. Otherwise, they would devote the resources necessary to fixing it. This is not a new thing either. Some of the folks were talking about the questions included, what's the impact of the pandemic on cycle time and what's going on? This isn't a short-term thing. Last year's cycle time was a big deal to builders. If you listen to what Chuck's talking about with the roaring 2020s, cycle time is not going to go away just because the pandemic goes away. What the pandemic has done is it has caused some volatility in reducing the supply of manufacturers and laborers that have already been reduced substantially since 2008, and in the manufacturing world has been in decline for 40 years. So what the pandemic did is had an acute change and it made things become unavailable for a period of time in the second quarter of last year. And then that got combined with a renewed demand for home building, including lower interest rates and a desire to live. And maybe it's not even a desire, but it's a necessity to work and study from home. And so the focus has become more and more on where are we going to have a home. So there's more people trying to buy homes these days. But that doesn't mean it's all pandemic driven. This has been going on for a long time. In fact, we may only be halfway to the number of homes we need to build per year. And at the same time, for example, our labor force is down 25% from where it was a year ago for a variety of reasons. And manufacturing labor force is still in decline. So we just don't have enough of the plants, the people to actually work in the plants or to work on our homes. And that's not changing fast. So closing, for example, we're going to cover some of the common problems that people have before and during construction. A lot of the problems seem to be focused on the construction cycle, but the solutions, they become apparent during the construction cycle, but the solutions really are developed before the construction cycle, and sometimes because of things that are beyond the construction cycle. In particular, our construction plans, our land, the processes we have, and the people and the way we acquire and develop them. We're gonna talk about a really simple model for how to think about and make decisions and take actions about improving cycle times related to the problems or issues that we face. The first thing I want to mention when it comes to cycle time is if we have a $400,000 home, which is the average new home that's being built these days, the price. If you are achieving our margins, so you got a 12% net margin, you got a 30% gross margin, and if you have, for example, a 6-month average build time for that home, last year you were experiencing cycle time problems that might have cost you $4,000 to $6,000. You might have been experiencing cost increases that might have cost you $1,000 to $4,000 on those homes. That's not to say that's low amounts. I mean, that's still a big amount. If you're doing 10 homes a month, just multiply that times 10. So you're easily costing yourself because of cycle time and other kinds of issues that we'll talk about. You're easily costing yourself $2,000 to $6,000 even last year. This year, 2021, we're looking at price increases and unavailability that we haven't seen in decades. So, and we're looking at continued strong sales demand. So between the two of those things, we may be experiencing anywhere from $8,000 to $16,000 per home in cycle time problems. $8,000 if you're just seeing a month worth of decline and you're doing 10 homes a month. For 10 homes, it's going to cost you $8,000 for every month of delay. If you're starting, and that could be for any reason, whether it's unavailability of materials, unavailability of permits, that the trades just can't show up because the job's not ready, all kinds of different reasons. Now, price increases may affect an additional $8,000 during that same time. So a 6-month home that might go to a 7-month home, we may be experiencing up to $8,000 very easily of price increases. For example, a year ago, lumber, well, from a year ago, lumber is about 2.5 times or 250% more expensive than it was back then. And now we're starting to experience shortages and unavailability. So what we're going to go through, now that you know the scope of that problem, that you're potentially looking at, if you're doing 10 homes a year, or 10 homes a month, at the average price of a home, anywhere from $4,000 to $16,000 per month of some kind of problem associated with price increases or delays. Now, these problems divided into two kinds. There's those who are under your control, and those are things usually deal with a quality. Quality is some kind of problem. That could be a quality of the permit application you have just wasn't full. You didn't answer all the questions, so it just gets delayed. Obviously, it's quality if the job's not ready for the next trade partner. So the solution is to identify those problems regularly, resolve them, document that resolution so you can keep it controlled, and then verify through regular information flows whether that continues to get resolved. And if there's exceptions, you've got management processes to go take care of those. The second kind of problem is those outside of your control. Those are things like the material's unavailable, it's out of stock, there's delays. Those can generally get resolved, or you can start finding resolutions if you at least have some information about it. At least if you know that there's a problem with delay or out of stock, you can go figure out an alternative source of supply. You can go figure out a different kind of material or equipment to take care of that. But you have to know about it. So that's one of the things we really don't have is a good information flow between ourselves, our trade partners, their crews, their suppliers, and the manufacturers. And we need to build those relationships and those streams of information. So the solution there is to fix those information issues. And then you still have to change your processes to do something to control it. So you just go back to those steps. We're going to be applying that a few different ways as we go through this. The biggest area to me that builders can make improvement on to fix their cycle time are all of the issues that occur before construction. Those tend to deal with land issues, with product issues, with sales issues, and then pre-construction issues, which can be divided into a few other subcomponents as well. Let's talk about, these all tend to blur and overlap on each other. So if I put one issue in one area, don't worry about it. We'll get to it from another perspective. Let's take it. The big issue with land is it takes too long these days to find it, to acquire it, to develop finished lots at a reasonable cost. So we are selling our current inventory of finished lots too fast compared to how long it takes to get new finished lots ready, right? Isn't that what a lot of builders are experiencing? I mean, I know some builders who have 10 to 11 months of backlog right now in their production. They only have to sell one more month to meet their goals. In fact, the more you sell, the more you're digging yourself a problem. So those are two of the problems with cycle time issues when it comes to land. So some of the solutions, let's look at it from the perspective of what's under our control. Well, the biggest thing that's under our control is the price and the pace of selling our homes. But I know we've always encouraged people to have regular monthly review of pricing. And every time you sell 4 to 6 homes, you need to look at increasing your price a small amount. That's gotten down to maybe you only look at releasing 4 to 6 homes a month at the most, but you're looking at changing those prices every 1 to 2 times, every one time you sell a home or every 2 times you sell a home. You're looking to increase that price. There's also other things we need to do. For example, don't sell homes that you don't make the highest margin on. We've always encouraged people to get rid of the number of homes that they have. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But at this point, you don't have to sell homes with this kind of demand where you don't have a very strong margin on it. The other thing you can do that we're talking to several builders about now is creating different kinds of auction processes to help moderate that demand. I mean, you're seeing this in the existing home market where people will put their home on the market and they are getting offers from people that have nothing to do with the price. In fact, it says, I will give you $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 over the highest offer that you receive. That's the kind of pricing pressure that we're seeing in today's market. The next thing we need to do to help this work better is have really full quality, complete documentation when it comes to the elevations and the preliminary plat. If we want to get through the process with the city faster, we need to give them clear documentation that's complete early in the process and be able to make changes very quickly. In order to do that, we have to understand our customers very well, which people are not even paying attention to right now because they're selling their homes so well. And we have to understand our costs. In fact, we have to understand our customers these days using the old Wayne Gretzky method. We don't have to understand the customers today. We have to understand the customers as who they're going to be when those lots are ready to be built on, which could be a year to 4 years from now. So we're going to have to look at new kinds of product and new kinds of lot configurations that work for what the costs and the prices are going to be 2 to 4 years from now, and what those customers might be demanding at that point. Very rarely are we seeing that kind of thing happen. We're still seeing the exact same lot configurations that don't even make sense to having 2-foot dimensions for our floor plans. We got a lot of work to do to make those lot configurations and our land planning work well and have all the information complete so that it rolls through the entitlement process and all the other approvals speedily. Most of those processes are under our control, but many of them aren't. What the city does with them, what the salespeople do, what our customers do, but what kind of information do we need from each of those people in that land approval process? What do we need to know from our engineers, from our iron trade partners, from the city officials? What do we need to know regularly? And if we built those kinds of relationships and those information flows so we know what's going on with it regularly, and then we can go fix it quickly. Most of us hasn't done that. Now I'm pressing the wrong buttons once again. Let me fix this real quick. Okay, when it comes to the products that we're selling, the quality of our construction documents, because they are just not complete, they cause all kinds of cost increases, they cause quality problems, they cause construction delays, delivery problems when the homeowner takes the closing and settlement, and then warranty problems thereafter. We still are not focusing on getting clear and complete construction documents. I'm not even talking just merely the plans themselves, but the materials specifications that go within those plans. And we need to build in flexibility within those material specifications so we can say, here's the kind of appliances we want, but if there's some sort of delays, here's what we will substitute that for. And we need to be able to communicate that backwards and forwards, both forwards to our customers and backwards to our trade partners, suppliers, and manufacturers. The number of floor plans we offer is, just think about it. If you've got 70 different floor plans you're offering, but you're really only selling out 5 of them very much, why do you have all the rest of those? You're just causing all kinds of problems for yourselves, for your trades, for your manufacturers to try and interpret all that stuff. If you've got 25 different window types, when you really could pull that down to maybe 5, we got to work on all these things that not only save us money, but reduce the risk of delays. The number of options and upgrades we have that we do customized, where it's one-off, that's just begging for a construction delay or an out-of-stock problem because we can't quite find that same custom piece. Let's go get everything pre-planned and pre-priced, set up the information flows so we know when there are problems and changes to those stock items, and figure out what to do about it. Almost all of those are under our control. Get those construction drawings complete. Get material specifications all the way through the SKU numbers so that it's very specific. Go tell those manufacturers, I think I'm going to need 425 of this model of refrigerator spread out equally over the next 12 months. They would love that kind of information, and hardly any builders give them that kind of information. We need to have completely clear scopes of work, job ready, job completes checklist, in whatever languages your crews need, so that they know that they're supposed to do it and your superintendents are supposed to do it. That's the biggest thing that superintendents can be held accountable for, is making sure that job is ready for the next trade partner, making sure that the job is complete before they let folks go. All of the options and upgrades need to be pre-planned and pre-priced. And then you can start making those pricing changes depending on demand. That's a great way to work with the flexibility for appraisal problems that we're bound to experience because we're making such huge price changes. And don't have so many floor plans. Do you even know how many floor plans in your current backlog that you've sold fewer than 10% of your unit volume on, and that they have low gross margins under whatever your target average is of 30%? I can almost guarantee you that every single client that we have worked with in the past year, except for one, has not known that information. We've had to help them figure out which kind of backlog floor plans they have. So if you don't even know which floor plans you're selling a lot and which ones make you money, you can't prioritize your work. You're just going to run around in circles. The other key thing when it comes to floor plans and construction drawings is we need to have a quick cycle time to go create construction drawings or make changes to them. And we want that to be short. We've been experiencing, if we've got our acts together, we can go make complete new floor plans within 4 to 6 weeks with some of the processes that Ed and Rick and I have worked through. A lot of builders, they can't get that done for 4 to 6 months these days, and they aren't even complete. Most of us don't even know what a complete floor plan is. We just think, well, that's good enough. That's what people have used before. We don't even know how long the fastest people and then the best people do to fix a floor plan. The architects and the CAD folks, how do they do that? We've learned some really good processes for how to make that happen very quickly. The flip side to that, the paradox is, we want the cycle time for a good floor plan to last a long time. We want those floor plans to be highly flexible and high in demand for a long time. How long should that be? It could be 3 to 12 years. How flexible could it be? The best example I know of is Ed's magical Stella plan. He was able to make that plan work anywhere from as low as a $350,000 price on up to about a $1.3 million price, just by having all kinds of different structural options and finished kinds of upgrades that you could choose to make that house bigger or smaller, depending on the marketplace that house needed to be built. It's a great example of a floor plan that can be highly flexible and last a long time, yet be very complete, so you know your cost and your quality information all the time. Sales. Problem is, it takes time to find someone who's interested in buying. It takes time for that person to actually buy. And we don't seem to be having problems with that. Most of our clients, most of the builders we know, they're selling more than they can handle right now. But what they're not paying attention to is who are the most profitable, happiest customers that we will need going forward. For example, we need to look for customers who have enough cash so that they can handle the potential cost increases that we need to be able to have them be accountable for. We need to put into our contracts that they will be responsible for some cost increases that they cause because they don't get their work done properly, or cost increases that they cause because they want certain kinds of changes to the home, or cost increases that are beyond both of our control these days. They need to be happy by realizing that it's okay if their home gets delayed. We need to be able to work with people who can work with the markets that we are living within. We need to find those customers who will be happiest with our process, and we can still make money on it. Most of the builders we have are not even talking to their customers about delays. They're using way too many outside brokers. using way too many inside salespeople, that they don't allow them the stories and tell them the truth about here's what's going on. Here are the framing issues. Here are the lumber issues. Here are the appliance issues. We need to explain that well and have good communication methods with our buyers regularly, not just emails and pictures, but some face-to-face or Zoom-to-Zoom kind of conversations, so that people can express their frustrations and also get them set for the expectations that it's going to cost more. They may have to bring more cash to the table because the mortgage and the appraisal may not cover it, and it's going to take longer. We need to find those customers who are willing to work with us that way. We also need to deal with the fact that it takes a long time. In fact, I've seen anywhere from 4 months to 6 months between the time that we actually get a contract written, between the time that the house starts. It takes, sometimes they just sit on people's desks to wait to ratify that contract. Then it takes time to get the selections done. If it's not taking you less than 2 weeks to do that kind of stuff, you got a lot of work to do on some of the pre-construction processes. You're ratifying the contract and selections. Those are all those things I'm mentioning are all under our control. We can train people, we can measure the success or lack thereof of these processes, we can document them. We need to learn to encourage our customers to be accountable to the roadmap that we lay out for them to get their mortgages approved at the amounts necessary, to get their selections done on time, to get all their other stuff done, to not drive us crazy by showing up every day. We need to encourage our customers to be accountable and then hold them accountable when they violate those rules, just as we're holding ourselves accountable. There's things that are out of our control, what's going on in the customer's life, what's going on in the mortgage lending world. In those cases, we need good information flows. We need to be able to communicate with them regularly, and we need to require that they communicate with us regularly as well, so that we can take action to resolve those issues. The pre-construction or soft cycle is one of the most important things. In fact, we see all the time where those delays are causing more of the problem than what's going on in the construction schedule. In fact, these days, we're going to have to start ordering a lot of things during the pre-construction cycle. We're going to have to order windows and cabinets and appliances probably before we start the home. So we need to make sure that even the ordering part of the construction cycle is done early enough based on the lead times that their manufacturers and suppliers require. So these are all the things that go from the contract being written until we actually release this home for construction. The things that are inside of our company that we can control the most, and there are things that are outside of our customer or our company that we can at least get information flowing about, and we can often influence. It's just as important as the construction schedule in any kind of delays or any kind of cost increases. Normally on the left, there's that sale contract that happens. There's all kinds of planning and preparation to get the permit, to get all the approvals necessary, to get the selections done, et cetera. Then we release that to production. Then we produce the home, which is that hard cycle, that construction cycle that we all seem to focus on. And then we close the sale of the home. Right now, given the sales demand, we may for a while want to consider moving the sale until after we've started the release to construction. Maybe we want to just start building more spec homes because now we can specify exactly what's the most profitable home, the most profitable and desirable set of options and upgrades. We can get that produced, and maybe around the time of foundation complete or framing complete, when we know that most of our schedule problems are resolved, we can start releasing that for sale. We can also control our sales prices a lot easier doing that as well. So, many of our clients are starting to use that technique. These are all the things that impact home delivery. Ratifying that contract, getting the mortgage approval, the whole selection process, getting lot specific plans. Everybody wants, all kinds of municipalities want that. Getting the permitting done. got several comments for people here that permits, one in particular I saw only 2 or 3 of 13 was being issued. That's going to cause some problems if we can only do about 20% of our production volume. That's also a good thing to tell our superintendents and everybody else about, that we need to get permits done properly, so we need all this information. Otherwise, even though we got tremendous demand, we may even have to lay people off because we just aren't producing homes fast enough. We need to get all the estimating done. We need to get the purchase orders released. We need a complete, thorough start package so that that superintendent knows what to build. And they are, I can't tell you how many times it's incomplete, and then we hold these guys accountable, these poor guys accountable for stuff that they haven't even received the information yet. I've been talking a lot. Think for a second, if we fixed all of those problems before construction, how many construction delays would we have left? How much would we fix? Think about that for your own business and write that down. Write that down as we're going through this. What we have found most of the time, if we fix all of those things, we will have resolved 85 to 95% of the problems that cause delays during construction. Think about that for a bit. Very few builders want to do that. Let's go through the basics of the construction cycle, where it really is screwing up. And here's what especially we want to hold our superintendents accountable for. Once we've done most of all the other things that I just mentioned, they need to have all kind of complete information, complete plans, clear specifications, clear job ready, job complete, and scope of work information so they can hold their trades accountable, be good managers. That's what we want them for. We got to have a good schedule. And when I mean good, it's reliable. Most of the time, trades can't use our schedules to plan their work. Even a 2-week out schedule, it slips all the time. They have to react to whatever's going on with us. The job sits empty. They don't trust the schedule, even though when we try to do it again, they build in all the schedule delays. One of my clients up north in Colorado, they have a $4,000 higher price from one of their plumbers just because that plumber knows the reputation that they just haven't been able to hit their schedule on this project. So they're charging $4,000 more just because of that. They know it doesn't work. So it's going to take a while for your costs and your trades to actually show up at the job. If you don't realize, say that plumber's charging $5,000 to do that house. Well, $1,000 of that is going for the profit and the overhead of that contractor. Probably another, well, each of the crew who's working on that, they're probably getting at least $500 a day on that contract. So what you're losing, if it takes roughly a day or two for that to get done, if your job isn't ready and they can't show up, that trade is losing at least $1,500 if there's just one person. And if there's 2 or 3 people, they're losing probably $2,000 to $2,500 just because your job's not ready. So it's not a simple trip charge of $100 or $200 or whatever it is. They're losing their profitability. That's why they don't show up. They only show up on the jobs where they know that they can do the work. And then they're not going to come back until they're done with all the other stuff. So that's why house sits there. That's why it's so important to ask these questions. If you know the answers to these, then you are ahead of probably 90 to 95% of the builders out there. I would say 1 out of 20 can answer this question when I ask them. How frequently are your jobs not 100% ready? Do you even know the answer to that question? Most people do not even know it. And now we have to explain that for the supplier. How often is my order complete, and is it made timely for those suppliers' requirements? You know, just a real general PO does not help a supplier. They need to get it all the way down to the SKU and the colors and everything that's necessary for them to produce that. And they have to receive it timely. And then you're going to have to follow up on it, whether they received it and understood it, all the way through the manufacturer. How often do the superintendents need to tell you of a change in schedule? How often do they just text the trade partner and say, oh, it's not quite ready for you? Do you even know the answer to that? That's happening all the time. How often do the trades need to return to my jobs because it just wasn't quite ready? Someone else had to finish something else or some material wasn't available. Most people don't know these answers. And these are the problems that are causing the delays in our construction schedules. Do we even know if that trade partner has shown up on the job by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning? Do the superintendents even know that and report back to the office to tell you, oh, I need to go find out what's going on? It could be as simple as that poor crew, the truck broke down, or the kid got sick and they had to take him to the doctor. Maybe they just need a ride. That might be all it is sometimes. But if we don't know what's going on, we can't fix it. How often, this last one is important, how often are we telling our manufacturers what our next 12 months production is going to be when it comes to lumber, when it comes to drywall? Do they even know how much that they're going to have to put in stock for you? I'll tell you what, the more they can pre-plan for you, the more likely it is they can fulfill your needs. Got to admit you have a problem and stop blaming the trades and the suppliers. And I would suggest stop blaming the superintendent unless they're just not providing the information regularly, and then go train them and show them how to do it and hold them accountable for it. Work with those trades, those suppliers, your superintendents to create a solid, reliable schedule template that works, including all those order points and what's required for the orders, including all those job-ready checklists so that they know here's what has to be done. Here's the materials that have to be available. Here's the work in front of me that has to be done. Rework it to hold the schedule with them. Make sure that you can each hold each other accountable and inform each other of things that you can help each other with, and the trades on both sides. So the trade who's before me and the trade who's behind me. That's who we want to collaborate with. Look for solutions. Avoid the blame game, oh shoot, or just the, well, I guess it's unavailable, so we're just going to have to wait. Let's go take that time to go find a new source, to find an alternative method, an alternative product. Use some buffers these days in the schedule. Keep them, don't, if it takes 3 days to do the job, don't have 4 just as a buffer. Put those buffers at the end of key phases, like the foundation or rough framing or by drywall, something like that. You want to make sure that unexpected events don't cause a delay in the closing later on. This is what's going to help you with reliability, because you build these buffers in, and it allows some flexibility to your schedule. You got to get information about the delays just as importantly as you get information about cost variances and why and who caused it. You got to get the exact same kind of information about why was this delay caused, who did it, what was the impact on it, what's the potential solutions, who's resolved it, and then start tracking those and dealing with the patterns behind them. Very few people actually issued delay variances. We've got to start tracking those individually. Some examples these days are framing and lumber. Just did we get the lumber? Did the framer show up and do it? Windows, appliances have the exact same thing. That do we even know that there is a potential delay? If it's a 16-week advance order, are we keeping track of what's going on with it every 4 weeks? Are we keeping track of it every week? Do they send us information? How do we know that 16-week order is actually going to work? We got to find out. Even when we can't just rely on it, because they can't rely on it all the time. They may have unexpected delays for all kinds of other reasons. There's short-term corrections we can take, like just go pick up the crew, bring them over here. There's medium-term ones that we're doing all the time now, using alternative products. Like, should we use a truss versus a piece of lumber, or vice versa? Should we use some sort of engineered I-joist versus a truss, or a 2x8 or a 2x10? Should we start using steel studs versus the lumber that we have now? Should we start doing some concrete or the Fox block on the exterior structure rather than wood? We have to start considering all these alternatives, because the one we've relied on may not even be available at any price. And there's longer term corrections. Where can we find alternative sources of supply? Like all the way from, when it comes to lumber, all the way to the mill level. What mill are you going to potentially buy that from, let alone the lumber supplier who's down the street? And then maybe we have to actually start developing people to become skilled trade members. Maybe college isn't the thing that everybody needs to do, or maybe being a waiter or waitress or a worker in the hotel industry ain't going to come back for a while. Maybe we need to go develop people so that they can learn how to do this work. We can't do that immediately, but over the long term, we're going to have to come up with some solutions, because we got 10 years of good times, folks, if we can produce stuff. After construction, we need to figure out what's under our control. But what's really interesting to me is I don't even know what after construction is to many people. People have different interpretations what after is. Well, it's ready to close. Oh, we've done the punch list, or it's the certificate of occupancy has been issued. To me, it's basically when that punch list is complete. So if it's taking you 30 to 90 days to get that punch list complete, then you're still not done with construction. But what we're doing is our superintendents and way too many other people are spending all kinds of time trying to complete that home after construction. So if we want our superintendents to do better and hold them accountable for stuff, fix the stuff before and help them get the stuff done right around the time of delivery, so that they can focus on what's going on during the construction time. Help them out with some punch list folks, help them out with some warranting folks. There's a variety of different ways that we can use to help them out. My favorite one is you've got to get those punch list items complete before closing, or within some fixed number of days thereafter. And you've got to have information and accountability and management systems to know what's going on with that and where the problems are, so you can resolve them. The second thing is just changing your organization structure. So maybe you're going to have to break it up between front end and back end superintendents. We're going to have more warranty technicians, or someone help them with the homeowner orientations and the punch list completion, so that they can go focus on the quality before. Those are a few different organizational changes that are often useful. Once you've figured that out as to how many homes that superintendent can handle, then you can figure out what the proper loading is. Normally that's anywhere from 12 to 20 homes for a superintendent. If they have to drive a lot to the job, it could be as few as 5 or 6 if they're driving all over the place and the quality information just isn't that good. It could be, so the number of homes that a superintendent can handle is highly dependent on the quality of the information, your systems and management processes as well. Let me just talk briefly about a few cycle times that exist beyond construction. Cash and decision and action taking are probably the big ones. We usually don't think about or care about the cash cycle much. And what I mean by that is the time it takes from expending $1 until we get at least $1 back. For example, if I spend $1, I want to get $1.14 back if I'm looking for a 12% net margin. This is the very last cycle. Cash is the thing that depends on everything else working right. This is the one that you can't change it just by focusing on cash. You got to change on everything else before you're going to affect the cash cycle. And the very beginning part of affecting the cash cycle has to deal with making decisions. So how fast do you or the others who are involved in that decision, the meetings that you do, how fast do you make decisions? And then once those decisions are made, how long does it take to actually implement that cycle? I'm finding amazing stuff is just looking at meetings. I mean, it can take people, for half the items, they get them decided during a meeting. There may be 8 people in a meeting. It could be a backlog meeting, could be a product meeting, could be a land meeting, could, whatever it is. Could be a find a new trade partner meeting. But a lot of these decisions get postponed, and then it takes a week to a month or two, and then usually the most important ones don't get dealt with for a year. Like maybe we just need to get more complete plans, or maybe we need to stop even offering this floor plan. We don't even make that decision. We just keep letting people mess with the same kind of quality of junk that they've always had to, and then we expect a different result. So that decision-making cycle and then the ability to take action is that's the thing that begins driving all of the rest of the cycles that we're talking about. And the cash cycle is the one that's left at the end that we experience this. So for example, say you pay a consultant like me or Ed or Rick, $1,000. How long is it going to take to get some kind of margin back? You know, $1,200. So for example, we go through a set of construction drawings. Ed looks at some plans, and we can find maybe $5,000 on 2 or 3 floor plans that we can save. Well, if you just build one house, if you implement those things, you're going to save that just building one house. But most people, they don't take the time to go implement the things. So that's one of the big things that we're noticing is we have to take the time to actually do the work that fixes the problem. Another big one is we pay $1 million for a piece of land. When are we going to get that money back? Well, we know we're not going to start to get that back until we got the first lot ready to build on it. And then it's going to take us, potentially another 100 lots to get that back. So, but we need to figure that out. How long does it take to get that cash cycle when it comes to land? There's all kinds of other things. How long does it take us if we have a meeting that costs us $1,000 of all the people per hour in that meeting, and if they could, so that's costing us $52,000 a year. If we just learn a few different techniques and cut that meeting time by a quarter, that's pretty quick. And the things that they can do with that is probably affecting about $150,000 to $200,000 of potential profitability, because they don't have the time now to go work on something that's more important. There's all kinds of ways to think about using the cash cycle, whether that's superintendents. How much time, how much extra cost can I pay someone to go improve the schedule by a week? Are you superintendents or you purchasing folks? Start using those ideas, because we're going to have to start applying them more. We're going to talk about those concepts more next week in our Managing for Profit seminar, and then the superintendent one's coming up a little bit later. Processes are the most key things. We want to develop and control written processes a lot faster, and that can be done. We can get a process done within an extra half hour maybe from the work we're already working on right now. It could be as quick as that. And then we could have to start controlling them and executing them. We need to monitor those processes for, are they working or not? And if they're not working, what do we need to go to improve it, to fix it? What does someone have to do? So that's just critical to improving. And anything to do with cycle time is all about written, documented processes and controlling them and then improving them. One of the key things we're dealing with is people. And it's not just our employees, it's our trade partners and their crews. It's the professionals we're working with, our architects, our engineers, our land planners, our construction lenders, our consultants. And then it's also the owners and investors. How do we attract people well, a lot faster? How can we get better people and and they will stick around and longer, they will learn longer, et cetera. They will be more productive quicker. Then the second part is once they're on board, how do we develop them and motivate them and retain them so that they last longer and do better, not only for our business, but for their own lives and everyone else in the business. So those are processes that I've seen some really great stuff with some of our clients. And then most people that just don't really think about it much. Just, I got to get someone here to do this job. And once I've got that fixed, we move on to the next. We don't really help people get better much, especially our trades. We expect them to go do it all on their own. And sometimes they can, and sometimes they're better than us, and sometimes they're not. But let's go find the best of both. Finally, to summarize, and I may be a few minutes off here, the most important cycle time is the time it takes you to make decisions to take action, especially about what's necessary in your job and your business and your life. That's what we're talking about here. The next one is how fast you pick one to improve, and then you go do it. Just take one of these ideas, just one, and then get it fixed, and then go do it again. Thank you very much for your time. Really looking forward to your comments and additional questions. Emma Jane, go for it. You take it from here. And you're gonna have to turn on your sound.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jim. That was great. I hope everybody got a lot out of today. I think you had a lot of great information to share. We do have one question from Robert. He wants to know, his comment is, work expands to meet time allowed. So how do you balance adding buffer days in a schedule versus allowing excess days that simply get absorbed into the schedule because your superintendent is not running a tight ship?
Well, I think you've answered the question in your question. You've defined what you said. The superintendent is not running a tight ship. Your job is to define what a tight ship is and hold your superintendent accountable for that through the information and management processes that you have and that he has. So let me just ask you a question. If I say that I'm going to have 3 buffer days for whatever reason, it could be weather, it could be material delays in my foundation stage. If I just have 3 buffer days and I go tell my superintendent, which I've actually done before, so I'm not really making this up, say, look, I got 3 days. You can only use it for these purposes. Use it for anything else, we're going to be having some conversations about this. You need to keep track of everything else to make sure that the job is ready, that people show up on time, that you report to it, you take action where you're necessary, you report to someone else so that they can take action, and we need to make this happen. These buffer days are for the things that are outside of all of our control. Superintendents also happen to be human beings. They understand that stuff. We need to hold, they are also one of the key managers to our business. They run a $10 to $20 million business. We need to teach them to be managers. They need to learn to use buffers properly in their schedule and in their management processes. So I have never seen it be a problem for a good superintendent who learns to be a manager, who has been managed well and provided the tools he or she needs. I've never seen a problem where they misuse buffer days. It requires some training. It requires other methods of accountability. I'm completely happy to talk with you outside of this. If you think I'm all wet still, that's no problem. Give us a call or an email and we'll go through it again.
So far, that's the only question. But if you want to flip through the slides, we can keep the question answer
okay.
Time frame open. Oh, here we go. Caroline wants to know, can you recommend help for accountability training?
Yeah, it's us. We help people learn how to hold themselves accountable first, and then how to hold other people accountable for themselves as well. I got, if we want to talk about it a bit thereafter, great. Beyond that, I can recommend books about accountability training, starting with Aristotle's Ethics and Politics on. So if you want to tell me a little bit more about your problems or your issues and what you're facing at some point through a phone call, I might be able to be a little more specific.
Excellent. And Robert said that was a great answer, so thank you.
My pleasure.
Do you want to go ahead and flip to the next slide, and we'll see if any other questions come through. And here's to kind of tag off of Caroline's question. Here's our team of people that we have, of consultants that we have that work with you on different facets of your organization. We have Ed, who works in operations, purchasing, value engineering, design centers. Rich works in technology, review, assessment, and strategy. Rick Maurer, purchasing, contract negotiation, value engineering, design, and Jim working with you on management, marketing, sales, operations, finance, quality evaluation, and effective ownership, leadership transition, and performance excellence. So if you're looking for help and guidance in any of those, you can contact us and we can help you through those processes. We do have a question from Nick. He says, we have been using cloud-based software for our construction scheduling and have required our field superintendents to keep updated on a daily basis. But this world we live in today, with material and labor constraints constantly causing delays almost daily, is discouraging the superintendents, and they're not seeing the need to keep the schedules updated daily because they are constantly changing. Should we force them to keep updating daily, or look at going to a centralized method where the schedules are updated by one person in the office each day rather than supers doing it in the field?
I need to ask a lot more questions to really give you a full answer, so I'm going to talk more generally about that. First of all, the superintendent, even if you have it centralized in the office, which is one of my favorite ways to do it, superintendents still have to talk with that person daily about the schedules, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. So it still requires superintendent input. The other thing is, if it's discouraging, what we need to go is start attacking the problems and fixing them, so that the superintendents can see that their discouragement occasionally gets fixed. Then they'll become more encouraged by doing it correctly. So we need to find some problems, just one, that's driving the superintendents the most nuts with respect to the schedule, and then go work on fixing that problem. If they see that people care about their use of the schedule, of them inputting that information, and if something gets fixed, they're going to be way more likely to use that schedule. Now, my preference will be to do it, have someone centralized to do it, so that superintendents can focus on quality, they can focus on a few other things, and that centralized person can then go grab you and tell you, here's the schedule problems. That's usually one of the things that's going on, is that superintendent just can't connect through doing the information update on the schedule. They can't connect with the right person to go fix it fast enough, whereas that person inside the office can often do that. I'm completely happy talking with you in more detail about it, but hopefully that gives you some places to look at.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim. Would you go ahead and go to the next slide too, while we're waiting for
Yes.
more questions to come through?
Yes, and by the way, each one of these topics that I mentioned, I just barely skimmed the top of it. So we could make a webinar topic, a seminar on each one of these, and drill into it in way more depth. So sorry if it's very brief.
I just want to put a reminder out there to all of you that Emma is doing her 28th financial and operations study. The deadline for submissions is going to be April 30th, so you want to start putting that on your calendar to participate in. Go ahead.
Oh, I have a comment on that for everybody who is concerned about cycle time. This is one of the best things to participate in. You need to put in your cycle time issues. It'll force you to learn what your cycle time is on these different areas that we talked about. And then you can talk in there, here's what you've been doing to work on it, to fix it. And when you get this study, you'll see what everybody else has been doing to help fix their cycle time problems as well. So it's a great resource.
Absolutely. And one of the things Emma is very interested in this year is really focusing on cycle time and the impacts that it's going to have this year. She is very concerned that it's going to have a bigger impact on the bottom line than many of us really realize or believe to be true. So when you do participate, make sure you do fill in those questions about cycle time, because that will help us analyze that information in more depth so that we can make adjustments moving forward. Go ahead and switch the slide. We have some other announcements. Of course, here's our services that we offer at Builder Partnerships. We offer our rebates with a data transfer with ECI Marks, MyTech, COVA, and Builder MT, so we make that process super easy for you and efficient. We offer all kinds of training from online classes to live courses, which we have some live courses coming through starting next week, and then we have Superintendent coming up in April, so you want to make sure to get signed up for those live sessions. We also have our consulting services that we talked about before, and we have our builder groups. So we have lots of ways that we are supporting our builders here. So if you need anything in those regards, please feel free to contact myself or Lisa here in the office. Jim, if you'll switch the slide, I think there's a slide on managing for profit next.
Okay, so I just trying to answer a question there and got stuck. There we go.
There you go. Here's a list of all the different manufacturers we have partnerships with right now. So if you're using any of these manufacturers, you want to contact us and see how we can help you get money back. It's my daughter, actually, she's so cute. She's a senior in high school, and she does stuff checks to mail out to the builders who don't do our direct deposit option. And she looks at the checks and she's like, oh my gosh, somebody is getting a check for this amount. So there are some sizable checks that do go out. So you do want to contact us to see how you can get a little bit of cash back in your pockets. HBU is our Home Builder University. Managing for Profit starts next week. I believe we only have a couple spots. While the webinar was happening today, we did get another registration. So you want to call in to make sure there's more spots available, but it is going to be these are our only 2 live sessions for this spring. Managing for Profit, February 23rd and 25th. So that's next Tuesday through Thursday. And then Superintendent's Job is April 15th. Oh, it's actually here in Denver, not Atlanta. It was originally going to be in Atlanta. It's going to be in Denver. So we're going to have it the 15th through the 17th here in Denver again at the same hotel. So you want to make sure you get signed up for that as well. Jim mentioned throughout the program that it's important to have your superintendents understand their job as managers, and they will get a lot of great training at this seminar.
Yep.
And again, Webinar Wednesday next week, we have Info Plus, who's going to be talking about cost controls. So you want to make sure to sign up for that. The registration is open for that at this time. So make sure you register for that. We also have a couple spots left in our lumber workshop. It's a high-level workshop that we're going to be working on plan reviews and audits to help you reduce construction costs and increase profitability. That class is going to be run by Ed Hauk and Dave Burley from Bemer. And the class is limited to only 5 companies. We have 2 spots left. It starts on Tuesday, March 2nd. If you're interested, you can email me directly and we can see if that's a fit for you. Anyways, I think that's it. You can contact Jim with any questions. His email is here. You'll get an email thank you tomorrow with his information as well, but you can contact him at jim@builderpartnerships.com if you have any questions or would like to follow up with him on any of the topics that we discussed today. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you so much for coming to our webinar Wednesdays. We love having all of you every time. Have a great day. Thank you.